Welcome to my show, simply entitled Women Influencers. I am Veronica Malolos, CCIM founder and CEO of Capstack Commercial, a commercial real estate company serving the greater Orlando area. Today's guest is Traci Miller, SVP of Business Development for Miller Construction of South Florida. Her story about believing in the value of helping others accomplish their goals will definitely deliver golden nuggets. Please don't forget to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe below. I welcome your comments and please share with someone who can benefit from this podcast.
Hi, Traci. How are you today?
Veronica, I am great. How are you?
I am fantastic. I mean, it's still too hot in Florida, and you're even in South Florida, so I can just imagine how hot and humid it is. But I want to thank you for being here today. You are such an inspiration to a lot of people, and so we are blessed to have you on our show. So if you don't mind, I just want to jump right in and ask you if you could tell us about your story, how you grew up in your environment and how you got to where you are today.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you. I'm actually absolutely honored, and a friend of mine recommended that I talk to you, so I'm happy I did, but thank you. So I did grow up in a construction industry. My dad founded Miller Construction Company 51 years ago, and his brother, Harley, my uncle, was his partner, and they still are partners all this time. But my story isn't that I grew up so much in the industry. The reason I've been working at Miller Construction for 31 years is that I went through a divorce when my two oldest children were 3.5 and 2 years old, and I needed to get a job. I was out of school, and at that time, Miller was only 20 years old. And the woman who had been their office manager and 12 other things as the company grew was retiring. So I just suggested to my dad that I be the office manager. And he sent me in to interview with our new CFO. And I had to talk to her, and she did end up hiring me. So that's really how I started at this company. And then over the years, have done various and sundry jobs. Office management changed a lot. I've done some contract administration, a lot of marketing, community relations, that type of thing. My story includes having gone through, a few rough patches. I've actually been divorced twice, and I'm now married to the wonderful Troy McCatton. We've been married for 11 years now.
Congratulations!
Thank you so much. I'm blessed, that God gave me another shot. But Troy is just a man. Just a strong, but sensitive man. And he says he'll hold my ladder. So to climb on.
So great.
Yeah, it's been good. So anyways, now I do serve at Miller Construction still. I'm our Senior Vice President of Corporate Communications. I work in business development. I oversee our marketing efforts, all of our community relations. I'm, basically the face of the company in both industry organizations like CCIM, NAIOP, Commercial Real Estate Women, and also serve on boards for charitable organizations and civic organizations like the Greater Fort Lauderdale Alliance. So I'm kind of the face of the company. That's what I spend most of my time doing now.
That's amazing and really awesome. I was curious, are you a native of South Florida?
I am a native of Florida, as are my parents. Well, my mom is. My mom was born in Miami. Dad was born in Chicago, but his family moved here when he was 2. So it's so close. And I was actually born in Gainesville when my parents were Gators. They got married. Awesome. I was born 11 months later, and then, of course, attended University of Florida as well.
That's great. I have a couple, 3, maybe 4 Gator nephews and nieces, and of course, just the other day, I saw them all in gear because of the game.
Yes, of course. Unfortunately, yeah. I won't say the school, but we got beat badly. Let's just leave it at that.
So much fun, though. So much fun. Yeah. I wanted to ask you to speak a little bit about the challenges, or even just one challenge that you overcame and how you did it. I mean, you talked about a couple of divorces and then overcoming that. So tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, going through 2 divorces is a blow to a woman's self-esteem. Whether you believe you were at fault or not, it doesn't matter. It's hard. When you have children, and it affects them, and so you just have to prioritize life. So that certainly was a challenge. But now as a woman, I'm working for my family's company, which I loved. I mean, Tom and Harley, my dad and my uncle, just have hired great people over the years. I mean, just good people. But I think probably the biggest challenge and one of the biggest lessons learned, as Tom and Harley were deciding what their succession plan would be, they kind of put out a message like, listen, there will be a time when we'll sell a piece of the company and, maybe little by little until it's time for us to retire. And we would like to sell it to our team members rather than to some outside company who would change our culture.
That's great. That's
So
awesome.
it was, listen, the culture here is amazing. And I would say that whether my last name was Miller or not. But so when they finally announced, like, oh, this group of people, we anticipate that they'll be the future leadership of the company and they'll have the first opportunity when we decide to sell a portion of the company. And I was not in that group. And it was crushing. And I went into my dad, who I'm very close with, but he doesn't like to hear cuss words. And I said, like, what the hell? Why am I not on that list? And he said, gosh, I didn't know you wanted to be on the list. You never said anything. So the lesson learned, and I do share this a lot, is we women have to share what our goals are. We have to tell people that we work with, that we work for, what are your goals, right? And even though we're killing it and we're hitting all our numbers or, whatever our KPIs are, we're doing it. When it comes time for an opportunity, they may not think of you first because you haven't been vocal. And they're going to, hear somebody who's, high-fiving everybody else down the hall about the sale they just got or they just got their CEO, whatever that is. So that was the lesson, to let them know, because they crafted a plan for me. I was able to execute on the plan, and I did get to purchase a piece of the company in 2011 we were the first and only group for that matter, that had purchased the company from Tom and Harley.
How many women was on that list of the first group that actually purchased?
None.
Yeah.
Zero. There is one other woman who's been with Miller since she was 19 years old. So Whitney's been here almost 25 years now. And she owns a small piece of the company. She's not part of the leadership team, yet. Maybe she will. She's much younger. But no, that's it. So at this point, I'm the only female shareholder on our leadership team. Our CFO, of course, is a female, but she opted not to purchase because she's closer to retirement. But it's tough in construction. It's not like they have a whole lot of women. There are a lot of women in the company, but not necessarily in positions that to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is construction is probably one of those industries where we say that they're predominantly male, right? Mm-hmm. They're male dominated, but
male populated.
Yes, such is the nature of that industry and that business. So congratulations that you're able. You know what I tell my kids? I always tell my kids about the power of asking. And that's exactly what I told my kids as they were growing up. Your manager is never going to know what's on your mind if you don't speak it. Exactly. If you want to be off on a Sunday, just drop a seed. You never know. Maybe when they're scheduling, they'll think about you. Exactly. But if you don't say anything and you're young and you're new, they're just going to assume that you can work every weekend.
Absolutely. I always ask. I mean, whether it's fundraising, or the worst they can say is no, right? That's how I feel. To me, that's worst case scenarios. They say no, and you go, okay, you move on, or change your tack, whatever. So,
great segue. Yeah, great segue to the next topic I wanted to ask you, because I know that you have such a passion for your community, and I wanted to ask you about influence. So the question is, if you have one outcome that comes to mind that you had an influence in, that you're most proud of, what would that be?
So one of my favorite charities, I'm on the board now. I was on the board early on, but when I had this idea, I said, I can't do the idea and be on the board. So can we do this? And that's Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Broward County. And I wanted to start kind of a resource group of women. And we call ourselves Women on the Verge. And, it's funny. People are like, on the verge of what? And I'm like, yes, whatever. And it really just started as more of a social group where we would gather, have some cocktails, and I would carve out maybe 15 minutes and talk about what Big Brothers Big Sisters does and why it costs money to make a match. We weren't necessarily fundraisers. So at the end of our first year, the CEO called and said, listen, you guys have raised $43,000 this year. And I was like, well, how did we do that? He said, well, you charge people to come to your little events. You have a raffle, blah, blah, blah. What do you want to do with the money? So one of my very best girlfriends, Mary Harris, who was with Bank United at the time, we chatted and she said, why don't we do scholarships? Financial literacy is so important. And, let's get some of these kids in school who have been in our programs because a lot of them don't have the opportunity. So lo and behold, we switched to being a fundraising group. We have about 100 members of, ladies who pay to be a member each year. And we do little fun fundraisers. We went and did line dancing at Roundup, right? Raised a little money. And in the last 10 years, we've given almost $500,000 of scholarships to these kids.
Wow.
I get emotional because I always go to the event to hand out the scholarships. And they're great kids who work so hard. And that, to me, that's not a handout. That is a hand up. Like if you want to go get this type of education, and it's for anything, right? You can go to technical school. You can go be a welder. If you need uniforms because you're in nursing school or you're learning to be a phlebotomist, it doesn't matter what it is. If you are educating yourself, we want to support that. So Women on the Verge for Big Brothers Big Sisters is definitely one of the things I'm most proud of, having founded.
Yeah, I mean, congratulations. That's just amazing how you started as just a group of women, not even knowing that just by gathering and paying a fee, you're able to raise that much money and then eventually moved to philanthropy and helped so many of these disadvantaged men and boys and girls who have their desires and their goals to do better in life. Oh, amazing.
They're bright kids. They just need someone. That's what the mentorship, that's what Big Brothers Big Sisters is about. It's mentorship. And if we can mentor these kids, and they're bigs, there's bigs and littles. There's bigs who actually fill out those applications and say, my little deserves this. Like they write their letters of recommendation. So it comes from them. And then the kids, obviously we need them to answer a lot of questions and kind of do some interesting essays, but it's a wonderful process. I love it. I love it.
I'm just so thrilled to hear about Women on the Verge. As a matter of fact, when I read your bio, I thought we have to absolutely talk about Women on the Verge. So thank you for sharing.
I'll make sure to invite you to the next event.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd probably take a trip down and join you. I wanted to ask you if there was one piece of advice that you could give to our audience, what would that be, Traci?
So I would say, write yourself a letter. Write a letter to your 21-year-old self. This was an exercise that I did in a leadership program that we do with a facilitator. And at the end of it, I made a note of 4 things that really were my advice to myself. And this is actually the note. I carry it around in my backpack. But the one that I thought was really important, I don't want it to sound trite, but you just don't realize how important this choice is. And that is to choose your spouse or your significant other wisely. Trust your gut, pay attention to red flags, and don't settle, because that relationship makes a difference in everything you do every day, right? It makes a difference in how you feel about yourself, how you feel about your job, how you feel about having, a partner that you can share with. So that piece of advice about writing a letter, this is kind of an additional piece. And then lastly, and especially for women, enjoy your life, spend money on what you need, spend a little bit on what you might want, but start saving early. Start saving early. It just adds up so quickly when you do that, because the next thing you know, it's 30 years later. And when you look back at what's in the bank, or what your assets are, it's amazing. But if you get to 30 years and you look back and it's not there, then it's makes your stomach hurt. So invest early.
Well, that's such great advice. As a matter of fact, it touched me that you actually talked about financial literacy, because there are just so many, especially our youth, who are not exposed to that. So great advice. I love it. It's wonderful. So thank you for that. So we've come to the part of our interview where you get to ask me a question. So please go ahead.
Well, so of course I follow you on LinkedIn, and I saw you mentioned just the other day that you had purchased your first piece of commercial real estate. And you mentioned Beth Azor, who does a Women Investing in CRE Summit. So I just wanted to know what was finally the impetus and why, being a woman, being a CCIM, had you not invested in the past? Like what finally lit the fire under you?
Well, thank you for the question. And I will tell you that what really made me just move forward with it was inspiration. When I went to that summit, I was inspired by all the women, and especially Beth Azor, of course, all the women who were on stage. And the one thing that crossed my mind was, well, if they can do it, I can do it too.
Right.
The only difference, of course, is that I was I have an advantage because I'm already in the industry. I understand commercial real estate.
Right.
And I thought to myself, I think maybe it's time for me to be on the other side of the table because I've helped a lot of clients make a whole lot of money. And I thought to myself, well, if I know how to do that, I should do that for myself and my family. As a matter of fact, the purchase that we did was a family purchase. And we're so very, very thrilled about that opportunity. And I hope that for our listeners, especially the women, who, by the way, I think Beth said there's only about 2% of women that actually invest in commercial real estate. And so I would encourage everyone to, number one, attend Beth Azor Summit that's coming up, I think, the first quarter of the year in 25.
It's in March.
It's
Down
in
here
March.
In Fort Lauderdale. Yep.
And if you're already at the cusp and you're thinking about it, just go ahead and do it. I think it's going to be an amazing experience, and just be careful, of course. But it's super exciting. So,
that's
that
awesome.
would be.
Congratulations.
Thank you, and we're just happy. As a matter of fact, I just visited our building, and the roof is up. All the trusses are in. It's just really so exciting. I took a video.
Well, now you're talking my love language, right? I love construction terms.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you, Traci, for spending the time with us today. I think that you're such an inspirational person. You are amazing, and you have a passion and a heart for the community. And I do want to thank you for being a part of our podcast. But do you have some parting words for our listeners today?
Well, I do, Veronica. Seriously, I want to say thank you. What you do when you put yourself out here like this, which is what Beth does, right? And she's inspired you, and you don't realize that you're inspiring women as well by putting yourself out here, taking the time. This is not something that you're making money off of, right? You want women to feel inspired, to feel empowered, and to learn from others. So that is, I'd like to kind of close with that. I just turned 59, right? So I'm approaching that big number. But I love learning from other people that I admire and expect and respect, right? How do they live their lives? Who do they spend time with? What are the things that inspire them? And I love to learn from those people. So surround yourself with those people that you respect. Find a way to spend some time with people that you can learn from at whatever age. I actually learn more from the young people now because things have changed so much. It's like having teenagers fix the VCR machine. But I love spending time with millennials. They just teach me how to think differently. A different perspective. Not that I need to change the way I think, but just it gives me a different perspective sometimes in making decisions. So.
Yeah, it helps with our understanding of how the world is actually changing. So absolutely, I agree with you, Traci. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
I hope that one day soon I can join you at one of your events at the Women on the Verge. And just want to wish you all the very best. And I'll see you soon.
Thank you. Same to you. Bye.
Thank you.